Funcom released the financial report for its fourth quarter earlier today, saying that it was the most profitable year in the company's history. According to the report, revenues for the fourth quarter increased by 166% versus the same period last year, and that revenues for 2018 increased by 46% to $33,776 compared to 2017. Cash flow from operating activities for the quarter increased by 41% as well. CEO Rudy Kasane attributes the growth to successful launches of Conan, Exiles and Mutant Year Zero on Dune, which he says established Funcom as a reputable publisher of third-party games. In addition to releasing its financials, Funcom also announced that it had entered an exclusive partnership with Entertainment to create games based on the United Nations intellectual property, as detailed in a separate statement. Funcom says that the legendary partnership is a 6-year deal for a minimum of 3D United Nations games on PS and consoles. One of them will supposedly be an open-world multiplayer title slated to enter pre-production at Funcom's Oslo studio in late 2019. A few months ago, the team at Insomniac Games released Marvel's Spider-Man, an astonishingly well-made open-world superhero game, and now many of them are headed to the 2019 Game Developers Conference in March to talk about what they learned. This is a great opportunity to learn useful game dev skills from some of the best in the business. So conference organizers want to make sure you do not miss out on all the exciting, informative Spider-Man talks taking place at the show this year. For example, you have probably already bookmarked creative director Brian Intiar's talk on conquering the creative challenges in Marvel's Spider-Man, in which he will discuss 3 major hurdles they faced during the game's development and how Insomniac Games overcame them in order to fit the team's creative narrative goals. But you might have overlooked senior engineer Ryan Ruskin's technically minded compliment to that talk, Marvel's Spider-Man, a technical post-mortem. This was Insomniac's biggest game to date, and Ruskin's talk looks back at how their technology evolved to make it possible, and the setbacks and pitfalls along the way. He will discuss the challenges of a rapidly growing asset count, and adapting rendering, streaming, and lighting to build an York City that fits on a Blu-ray. He will also show the evolution of the Insomniac team's combat and the learning curve on making enemies and bosses that work with an actual web slinger. He will cover the procedural tools for marking up Manhattan, and how their approach to building the city changed over time, as well as how the pedestrians, traffic, street vignettes, and random crimes grew from humble beginnings to an interactive part of a living city. Plus, Insomniac's Noah Alzaya will be delivering a great presentation on Super-Humans of New York, managing the many phases in Marvel's Spider-Man. That promises to be intriguing, especially if you have any interest in facial animation and face management in games. With more and more AAA projects relying on subcontracting outside companies to create high-end facial rigs, this talk will go over how Insomniac Games' rigging team created a mostly drama-free pipeline for integration, feedback, rig enhancement, and change tracking for approximately 150 facial rigs from a third-party vendor without tying up the whole team. This talk goes over the way this was all achieved and overseen with very little overhead tied to getting new deliveries for characters, the way they managed to track their own changes to the rigs, the edge case issues they ran into for certain characters, and the tools and methods they developed to solve them. And in a special talk during the DD 2019 animation boot camp, animating the main villain in Marvel's Spider-Man, What? I Am Regaining How Many Legs? Insomniac's Sophie Brennan will give you an overview of what went into animating the iconic final villain in Marvel's Spider-Man. From concept, to model, to rig, to game. Join this session to see what it takes to bring way too many legs to the screen. For a deeper look at the city itself, make time to see principal technical artist David Santiago's talk on procedurally crafting Manhattan for Marvel's Spider-Man. He will break down the design of the game's open-world pipeline and how each procedural system was originally designed to support iterations and dependencies. Of course, the reality of production posed greater challenges than expected. Procedural systems were used to author and modify much more content than planned. A lot seemed to go wrong before the Insomniac team ultimately got it right. Their production failures became success stories and have laid a roadmap for future projects. So do not miss this reflection on some of the major challenges devs face when proving their creative vision early on. You will walk away with practical strategies on how to overcome those challenges in your own projects. And finally, if one of this means a thing because it's a about that swing, you will want to check out lead gameplay programmer Shivan's Concrete Jungle Gym, Building Traversal in Marvel's Spider-Man talk, which is all about the inner workings of the game's remarkable web swinging. Notably, Shin will give you an in-depth view into how the traversal system for the game was created. The talk will focus on how the swinging mechanic was originally executed and the process through which it evolved in order to increase usability and player engagement. This will include the discussion on the integration of additional mechanics as well as how the camera was designed to increase the sense of speed, power, and enjoyment for the system. It promises to be a fascinating talk, so try to swing by. Further details on these talks and many more are available now on THEGDC 2019 session scheduler. There you can begin to lay out your DD 2019, which takes place March 18th through the 22nd at the newly renovated Moscone Center in San Francisco. Bring your team to DD, register a group of 10 or more and save 10% on conference passes. Learn more. For more details on GDC 2019 visit the show's official website. Or subscribe to regular updates via Facebook, Twitter, OS, Gamasutra and DD are sibling organizations under parent company Informa. The original post on the Frictional Games blog, https://frictionalgames blogspot.com 2019 divided by 01 Thoughts on Detroit Become Human. HTML. Intro. It has been a while since my last design blog, and I felt it was finally time to write one again. And since I just played through Detroit Become Human, that's what I've decided to write about. First off, let me say that I quite liked the game. I had issues with how they tackled some of the themes, especially in regards to robots, and felt they could have taken some aspects of the world they created more seriously. What made up for the so-so narrative bits were the production value, such as some very cool environments, and the myriad of exciting scenarios. It's not an easy feat to create scenes that are not just narratively compelling, but also engaging play-wise, especially not in the sort of story that Detroit tells. On top of this, the branching and the choice possibilities in Detroit are insane. It is a lengthy game, taking well over 10 hours to complete, and yet as the story unfolds, There is a constant stream of differences that all depend on your previous choices. Everything to how crime scenes change to how characters make remarks, depending on how you played some previous scene. It's amazingly well done. The scenes are constantly constructed from a wide array of options, but everything flows together into a coherent whole. Other branching games, such as Hidden Agenda, have a much more jarring presentation, where they inserted lines and cuts in the flow are obvious. In Detroit, flow flaws are basically non-existent, so it is fair to say that production-wise Detroit is quite an achievement. However,